They showed the world pictures of dust, drought, and despair. But they did not show the heartbeat. They spoke about poverty, but never spoke about the hands that kept building anyway. They filmed the struggle, but left out the strength. Africa is not weak. Africa is not broken. Africa is not behind. Africa is becoming. From the coasts of Ghana, to the highlands of Ethiopia, to the streets of Lagos at sunrise, you see something quietly happening. People rising, families rebuilding, dreamers refusing to give up. This is the Africa the world rarely tells. But today we tell it. There was a time when the narrative was simple. Africa cannot. That there were young minds in small classrooms, writing equations on broken chalkboards. There were inventors pulling apart radios, farmers learning new ways to grow food, girls who refused to drop out, boys who refused to give in. The world said, too poor. Africa answered, watch us. Resilience didn't come from comfort. It came from storms, hunger, challenges. And still saying, I will try again tomorrow. Every drought created innovation. Every hardship created leadership. Every setback turned into a lesson. Africa did not just survive. Africa learned. In small villages, solar panels appear. In crowded markets, mobile banking spreads. In simple homes, children learn coding. Farmers use drones. Students learn online. Women start companies from their phones. The world asks, how is Africa doing this? The answer, with creativity, hunger, and unstoppable will. They prayed. They worked. They carried. They believed. And they raised leaders. Many nations rise on the shoulders of mothers whose sacrifices are never filmed. But history remembers them. Africa has scars, but also something stronger, hope that refuses to die. In whispers, in songs, in prayers, in work, hope keeps moving. And hope becomes progress. A generation stood up and said, we will not be defined by documentaries. We will not inherit fear. We will not wait for permission to succeed. They build apps. They start businesses. They teach themselves. And they look ahead, not back. Africa's future isn't about becoming someone else. It is about remembering who we already are. Kings, queens, builders, innovators, storytellers, guardians of wisdom. Our past does not hold us down. It anchors us, so we rise higher. Africa is not begging. Africa is building. And when history looks back, it will not say Africa followed. It will say, Africa rose. And the world finally noticed. In cities you've never heard of, and in villages no drone has filmed, entrepreneurs are quietly rewriting the rules. A young Kenyan woman turns trash into affordable housing materials. In Nigeria, a teenager teaches coding to street children. Ghanaian farmers use apps to connect directly to global markets. Rwandan innovators launch biotech projects that heal communities. These people do not wait for permission. They do not wait for investors. They do not wait for approval. They act. They build. And slowly, silently, the world begins to notice. Africa is no longer asking for a seat at the table. It is building its own table. The digital age came late, but it came fast. Mobile money exploded in Kenya, lifting millions out of cash dependency. Nigerian fintech startups created apps used across Africa. Digital education platforms bring classrooms to remote villages. This revolution is not just about technology. It's about freedom, opportunity, and access. Here, a laptop in a small home becomes a window to the world. Here, a smartphone can change the fate of an entire family. Africa is learning, innovating, and teaching the world how to leapfrog. Africa's leaders are changing, quietly, without headlines. Community leaders who walk miles to check on schools. Local councils that listen before spending. Young politicians who refuse bribes, innovate transparency, and push real solutions. This is leadership rooted in service, not self-interest. And while the world expects chaos, it witnesses an awakening of integrity, vision, and responsibility. Africa is more than a map. It is a story, a culture, a language, a memory. From traditional festivals in Mali to storytelling in Uganda, culture thrives. Music, dance, and oral history remind youth of their roots. Artisans and designers combine heritage with innovation, creating beauty that travels globally. This chapter is about remembering, not as a burden, but as a powerful foundation for the future. The youth are not waiting for the old systems. They are building their own. Tech hubs in Lagos and Kigali spark ideas that fund millions. Students volunteer to teach children in rural areas. Young activists push policies that protect forests, women, and local businesses. The message is clear: Africa's future is in their hands, and they are holding it firmly. History is not just memory, it's a teacher. Ancient trade routes remind us of ingenuity and commerce. Stories of resilience, courage, and wisdom from elders guide modern solutions. African philosophy teaches balance between community and self, progress and sustainability. Those who forget the past cannot rise, but those who remember it can soar. From small towns to bustling metropolises, from labs to farms, from classrooms to boardrooms, Africa's story is being written now. This generation is bold, creative, resilient, and unafraid. No outside narrative can contain them. No past stereotype can define them. They are Africa, and Africa is rising. Africa will rise. Not because the world grants it, not because others believe in it, but because Africans refuse to stop building, dreaming, and innovating. Stand up. Take part. Be inspired. Africa is calling, and it's your time to witness, share, and join the rise. The world sees Africa in fragments, poverty, conflict, and struggle. But there is another Africa, one that whispers in the wind, hums in marketplaces, and dances in the light of sunrise. Across deserts and rivers, mountains and cities, the people wake early. They work hard. They dream quietly. They refuse to give in. This is the Africa you rarely see, a continent of builders, visionaries, and survivors. In a remote village in northern Nigeria, farmers battle drought and fading soil. Instead of leaving, they innovate. New farming methods, water conservation, crop sharing programs. In Rwanda, a small community rebuilt after conflict now grows food that feeds thousands. Africa's greatest strength is not its land or resources. It's the resilience of its people. Even in the harshest conditions, they rise. In Lagos, a teenager uses scrap electronics to teach coding to children in underfunded schools. In Nairobi, a group of students develop solar-powered water pumps for villagers. In Accra, young entrepreneurs turn local crafts into global brands. The message is clear: Africa does not wait for opportunities, it creates them. And the world slowly begins to notice. Mothers rise before dawn. They cook, clean, and sacrifice. They raise future leaders while carrying their communities on their shoulders. Teachers in dusty classrooms inspire students with chalk and courage. They teach math, science, and hope. They show that Africa's future is not just in wealth, but in knowledge and vision. In Kigali Innovation City hums with ideas. In Lagos, tech hubs illuminate the night. In Johannesburg, urban farmers grow food on rooftops. Africa is transforming quietly, not through noise, but through action and perseverance. The continent is no longer waiting for permission. It is shaping its own destiny. From fintech startups in Ghana to fashion brands in Senegal, African entrepreneurs are building businesses that matter. They create jobs, they innovate, and they inspire. These dreamers show that Africa's economy is alive, vibrant, and capable of global influence. Africa's deserts, savannas, and rivers are teachers. The Sahara teaches patience. The Nile teaches endurance. The baobab tree teaches longevity and strength. People who learn from the land carry its lessons into communities, businesses, and governance. Africa rises because it respects its roots. Young Africans are reclaiming their heritage while building the future. They speak their languages, revive traditions, and celebrate African identity globally. They form movements that demand transparency, education, and equality. This is the generation that refuses to inherit broken systems. They invent, fight, and create, shaping a new Africa. Africa will rise. Not by chance, not by charity, but by courage, creativity, and persistence. Every child who dreams, every mother who sacrifices, every teacher who inspires, every entrepreneur who innovates, they write the story of Africa's destiny. The world may not notice immediately, but history will. Africa is rising, quietly, powerfully, and unstoppable. They show the headlines: wars, poverty, and chaos. But those pictures hide the truth. Across deserts, rivers, and mountains, Africa hums quietly. Villagers plant trees, students write code, and innovators tinker in garages. The real Africa is alive, vibrant, and defiant. Every sunrise is a promise. Africa is not broken. It is rising. In the drylands of northern Kenya, women build wells that feed entire communities. In Sierra Leone, youth revive abandoned schools and libraries. In Mozambique, fishermen use solar technology to preserve food. These villages refuse to vanish. They become living examples of courage, resilience, and hope. History rarely films these triumphs, but they shape the continent. Not all heroes wear suits. Some wear overalls, flip-flops, or the same worn school uniform. Nigerian teenagers invent affordable prosthetics. Ugandan students design apps to map rural healthcare. South African engineers turn waste into electricity. Africa's innovators are quietly reshaping the world. Without waiting for recognition. Africa's strength lies in its balance. Elders pass down wisdom. Cultural practices teach respect and community. At the same time, the youth innovate, challenge, and create. The result? A continent rooted in heritage, yet boldly stepping into the future. Africa is not abandoning its past. It is using it as a springboard. From Kigali to Lagos, Accra to Johannesburg, African cities pulse with life. Rooftop gardens, bustling markets, tech hubs, and creative spaces. The cities themselves tell a story of rebirth and innovation. These urban landscapes are not just survival stories. They are triumphs in motion. Africa is full of self-made visionaries. In Ghana, young women turn local crafts into global brands. In Nigeria, app developers create solutions for everyday problems. Across the continent, small businesses redefine what's possible. These entrepreneurs prove that Africa doesn't wait for permission. It acts. The continent thrives because of those often unseen. Mothers who rise before dawn to feed their families. Children who walk miles to learn, refusing to be limited by circumstances. They are the pulse of Africa, the source of resilience, courage, and hope. Youth movements, coding clubs, cultural initiatives, and social projects. The new Africa is led by the hands, hearts, and minds of its young generation. They refuse to inherit fear. They refuse to wait for permission. They write their own story. Africa is rising, not tomorrow, not someday, now. Every sunrise in Africa tells a new story of courage, vision, and growth. Don't just watch. Join the movement. Support, share, and celebrate the continent that refuses to be defined by its struggles.